Sandy Says Read, and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to do a review and discussion of the Jane Austen Project. This is by Kathleen A. Flynn. And this is one of the books that I read during Jane Austen July for that readathon. We're going to do a little bit of a discussion about that today. Before we begin, I want to welcome you to subscribe to the channel. Please welcome your friends to subscribe to the channel too. Because here at Sandy Says Read, we do all kinds of bookish things, including book reviews, like we're going to do today. Let's begin with the specs, as we do here at the channel. This is the Jane Austen Project by Kathleen A. Flynn. It was copyrighted, released in 2017 by HarperCollins. This version is 373 pages. It's written in first-person point of view, which I wasn't excited about, but it's in past tense, which kind of makes up for it. Let me read you the back cover. England, 1815. Two travelers, Rachel Cotsman and Liam Finucane, arrive in a field, disheveled and weighed down with hidden money. They are not what they seem, but colleagues from a technologically advanced future, posing as wealthy West Indies planters, a doctor and his spinster sister. While Rachel and Liam aren't the first team from the future to go back, their mission is by far the most audacious. Meet, befriend, and steal from Jane Austen herself. Carefully selected and rigorously trained by the Royal Institute for Special Topics in Physics, disaster relief doctor Rachel and actor-turned-scholar Liam have little in common besides the extraordinary circumstances they find themselves in. Circumstances that call for Rachel to stifle her independent nature and let Liam take the lead as they infiltrate Austen's circle via her favorite brother, Henry. But diagnosing Jane's fatal illness and obtaining an unpublished novel hinted at in her letters pose enough of a challenge without the continuous convolutions of living a lie. While her friendship with Jane deepens and her relationship with Liam grows complicated, Rachel fights to reconcile her true self with the constrictions of 19th century society. As their portal to the future prepares to close, Rachel and Liam struggle with their directive to leave history intact and exactly as they found it, however heartbreaking that may prove. Now, I did not prepare a Sandy synopsis for you, as we usually have here on the channel. Now, I don't want to just leave you with what's on the back cover. I do want to give you a little bit of a synopsis of what happens in the story, what happens with the narrative. When I do that, I'm going to be giving some spoilers. All right, we're going to go a little bit beyond what's written on the back cover. And then as I get into talking about the pros and the cons in the book, we're going to give some spoilers. Okay, so here's your warning. Spoilers ahead. Rachel and Liam participate in preparation for going back in time. All right. They do meet and work together to get ready to go back in time together. Before this project, before meeting at the Jane Austen Project, they had not been colleagues. They had not met. As we learned on the back cover, they're not in the same field. Okay, Liam is an actor. Rachel is a doctor. Okay, so they meet for this project's purposes. When they meet, Liam does have a girlfriend named Sabina, without an R, Sabina, to whom he has proposed. And Sabina, as we learn later, Sabina figures out that there is some kind of spark when Liam is with Rachel. Rachel doesn't really care that much about Liam, you know, whatever. He's just some pasty-faced actor-like person from old Britain. He's who he is. She doesn't really care that much about him, whatever. But Liam seems to be attracted to Rachel and to her free-spirited Americanness, okay? And Sabina sees that. So Sabina, who has been kind of stringing him along for a year or so, decides, I better I better accept his proposal. And she does. So they are engaged. And there's an engagement party prior to them leaving for the past. When we pick up the story, when we dive into the story, Rachel and Liam are arriving in the past. That's where the story begins. Our inciting incident is them arriving in the past. And there's a bit of confusion. I mean, when you go through a time portal, apparently, it is a little bit confusing. It messes with you. And in fact, it could stop your heart. So when they arrive in the past, Rachel like opens her eyes in this meadow, in this field, and she's like, oh, I'm confused. Where am I? What's going on? Oh yeah, I just traveled through time. And she looks at her travel colleague, Liam, and he's like face down, not responsive. And she's worried at first, like, hey, I wonder if his heart stopped. Here's the weird thing. And should I go ahead and say this now? There were many moments like this one where I thought to myself, am I supposed to be worried? Am I supposed to feel tension? Because I don't. It's okay. There are plenty of good things that happened in this book too, and we'll talk about those. But there were many moments where I thought, am I supposed to feel suspense? Because I really don't. Just moments like that where I just didn't feel what I think I was supposed to feel. And that was one of them. So Liam gets up, and they get up, and they realize there's like a stench in the air. And the stench is from a corpse that is hanging from a gallows nearby, and they've realized, oh, that must be a highwayman who's been caught and hung, strung up here along the roadway. So there is a danger element, apparently. So they need to be careful of highwaymen as they begin their trek through 1815. And they go to an inn, and the people at the inn are like, oh, we're suspicious of you. We're not going to give you a room. We're not going to give you food. Go away. So they get a carriage to another inn somewhere else. Basically, they're making their way to the town where they're going to try to make a connection with Henry. And they get to a place, and they end up letting a house, and they get some servants. Before we ever meet Henry, an event occurs that is going to have a ripple effect through time. And that event that occurs is Rachel saves or helps a young boy. They need a chimney sweep to come to the house to take care of the chimneys because there's like smoke and soot getting into the house. And one of the servants is like, this is a problem. We need to fix this. We need to hire someone to come and clean the chimneys. And Rachel's like, well, okay, but can we get someone who doesn't use little kids? Well, they end up getting someone who uses little kids. And this little kid's name is Tom. And Tom comes in and he falls and he hurts himself. And the guy who like farms out these little kids comes in and he's like, how dare you fall, you stupid kid. And Rachel is like, hold up. Isn't the kid's fault? How dare you be so rude to this poor kid? What's going on here? And she buys this kid from this guy and keeps him as a servant in her home. And this is unheard of. And for the woman, the sister, to do this is unheard of. And the servants are like, what just happened? Everyone's wondering what just happened. And Liam is like, I support you in what you've done. It was a little unconventional, and we're going to have to get past that with the servants and everyone. But you've done it. And now you've changed this kid's life. Probably going to have a ripple effect in the future. Probably does, but it's done. It's over. And we see that Rachel has a good heart, and we see that she wanted to help this kid, and she, damn the consequences. She's going to help this kid. And she did. And that should have endeared her to me as a character. Just the way it came about. I don't know. It was weird that did not endear her to me the way it should have. It was weird. But anyway, okay, so we've got Tom in the household now, this kid, and he is a good servant. He works out okay. He gets in the way a little bit, but it works. Okay, they've got this kid in the house. We do work on a letter. Liam, as the brother, is the one who's going to reach out to Henry. And so they work on crafting a letter to reach out to Henry. And that is cleverly done. That is very nicely done. The way they have to write this letter and use the ink and a feather pen, and it's just the way it has to work out is nicely done. They're sloppy about it, but they're trying to do it very neatly. And there's like all these copies, all these tries, all these attempts at it, and they finally get a letter done. And it's not as neat as they want it to be, but hey, it'll do. And they send that off to Henry. Henry's response letter, when it comes, it is perfection. And the way that is described and mentioned is quite humorous. I was entertained by that because when Henry's letter arrives, it is so neat. And each line is so perfect and so straight that they are embarrassed by the letter that Liam was able to complete and send. So yeah, I found that to be a little entertaining, very cute. Anyway, they do get an audience with Henry, not at his home, but I think at his bank. Henry has a bank that he and a partner are in charge of, and that bank is going to fail. And Henry does like try to get some money from Liam, does ask him for money to keep the bank from failing. And Liam and Rachel have to decide, okay, how much money are we willing to give Henry to try to help him, because we want to be friends. We want to keep this friendship going for the year that we're here, but we don't want to affect things too much. We can't save his business. We can't save his bank. We can't, because that will affect the future too much. So they want to give him enough to help him and be friends and stay in good graces, but not enough to save his bank and influence the future. They're walking that fine line in everything that they do. Okay. Yeah. So they do meet up with Henry. They do become friends with him. He does become ill at one point, as he's supposed to do. He does become ill at one point, and Liam has to pretend to be the doctor. He is Dr. Ravenwood. Okay, that is how he is introduced to everyone. He is Dr. Ravenwood. And he goes to Henry to offer assistance, to not be his personal doctor, but offer some assistance in addition to the doctors who are coming to see Henry. And in doing so, he sees that he learns that Jane is in the house. Jane has come to visit her brother. She is in the house. So he comes back to the home he's sharing with his sister, Miss Ravenwood, and gets her and takes her back to the house, and they meet Jane. We don't meet Jane. Did I write down when we finally meet her? Is it page 105? Yeah, we finally get to Jane at page 105. We do finally meet Jane Austen at page 105. But we do finally meet her. A friendship starts to form. Jane is very standoffish. She's very conservative in her friendships, right? She's very careful not to just jump into a relationship with either Dr. Ravenwood or his sister. There are people in the community that the Ravenwoods have met with and formed friendships with, and because of those friendships, Jane is more inclined to accept them into her circle. But it takes some time, and back in those days, it took some time to get into someone's circle, into someone's society, and that takes some time. But when Rachel does get into Jane's inner circle, when she does become friends with her, she is able to assist Jane in some things. For example, when Jane does fall ill, she became ill at one point. When she becomes ill, Rachel is able to wait on her. She's able to go into her room and talk with her and look at her urine in the chamber pot. She's able to assess what's going on and ask a couple of questions and help her and help Jane. And when Jane is when she's out of it, when she's almost comatose, in those moments, Rachel gets into her chest and takes out her letters. And so she is fulfilling her mission in getting the letters and taking a picture of them with the spectrometer that she has around her neck. She's getting the information she's supposed to be getting, but she's doing it surreptitiously. And then she's taking the letters back after she gets the pictures of them. And she's looking for that manuscript of the Watsons. And there is a moment where Jane catches her. So we do have that friendship that is formed. We do have Rachel fulfilling her mission, even though she's formed that friendship with Jane. And we do have that conflict happening. Rachel does feel conflicted about stealing these letters and taking pictures of them and then putting them back. She does feel conflicted about stealing from Jane Austen. Thank goodness. She does feel conflicted about stealing from Jane Austen, who has become her friend, but she's got to complete the mission. She must. And then one afternoon, when she's looking for the manuscript, I think she's still getting letters, but she's looking for the manuscript too. And Jane Austen wakes up and looks at her and she's like, "What are you doing? Are you going through my letters?" And Rachel just calmly puts them back and then goes over to her and is like, "Are you awake from your nap now? What are you dreaming?" And Jane's like, "No, don't give me that crap. You've been going through my stuff. What are you doing?" And so Rachel is like, "I got to come clean. I got to tell you what's going on. You are my friend and I have too much respect for you. I am from the future. I am a time traveler." And she freaking tells her, Rachel tells Jane Austen in 1815, "I am from the future." She tells her, "I came through a portal in time to get your letters and your manuscript for the Watsons and to give it to people in the future, because in the future you are you are a genius, and in the future everyone wants to know everything about you." And Jane is like, "Really? Okay." And believes it and takes this on face value and gives her the manuscript for the Watsons. So they complete their mission. They complete their mission, and they do have to, after this has happened, they do have to leave the area. There's more to it than that. How should I say? They are found out that they are not from the East Indies. They are found out that Miss Ravenwood is not going to be a good match for Henry, who has proposed to her. I mean, it all starts to crumble. It all starts to come apart. Jane does get the manuscript to Rachel before Rachel and Liam have to leave, but they do have to leave in the night, and they do have to get away, and they go off to another place and they become lovers. I mean, it's all mayhem and chaos, and they decide that they're trying to decide, should they stay here in 1815 and be lovers and just stay here in this time period, or should they go back? Well, they end up having to go back because I think Liam is so ill. He gets typhus and pneumonia, and he's got to go back for real medical help. He's got to have help. They decide to go back. They get back and everything has changed. You guys, they changed the timeline quite a bit. Things are quite different. First of all, Rachel was able to give Jane and her sisters enough medical information and enough help and advice. They prolonged her life. They saved her for many, many years to come. So Jane Austen was able to write an additional 17 novels, which is amazing and great, but they changed so much in that timeline. They altered the future so much that when they get back to the future, things are quite different. Rachel's mother has passed while she was gone. Liam is not an actor. He is a professor of some sort, and Sabina and he are not engaged. They're already married. So things are different in this timeline. And Rachel finds out her mission was not to go to the past and get the letters and the manuscript. Her mission was to go back and heal and save Jane Austen. The Ava Farmer, who runs the Jane Austen Project, sent her back in time, not just to get a manuscript, sent her specifically, Rachel, the doctor, back in time because she figured, she knew, she had read in Rachel's like doctoral thesis, and she figured out, oh, if I send her back, she'll save Jane Austen. And so she did. She sent her specifically back to save Jane Austen, to change time. That's the Sandy Synopsis. Let's dive into a discussion of the Jane Austen Project. Now, having given you all that synopsis and information of what happens in the story, it sounds like I thoroughly enjoyed it. Some of it, yes, some of that story is that is intriguing. Okay, the time travel is intriguing. Going back and finding Jane Austen and visiting with her, that is intriguing. Getting a manuscript of hers, that is intriguing. I would love to go back in time to the Brontes and sneak into Emily's room and get that manuscript that she supposedly wrote and threw into the fire before she throws it into the fire. I would love to go back and get that and steal it. Oh yeah, I would be a thief. I would do that. Yeah. Let me at it. Let me do it. Okay, so I get it. There is a part of me that is like on board with what's happening in this story. Let's go. But I didn't really enjoy the execution of it so much. There, like I mentioned a minute ago, there were moments where I was like, I think I'm supposed to be dreading what's coming, but I don't dread. There were moments where I was like, I think I'm supposed to be feeling suspense, and I'm not feeling suspense. There were just moments like that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. Also, Rachel, the main character, seemed to worry about sex a lot. And I didn't think that needed to be a focal point of this story. I just didn't feel like that needed to be shoehorned in here. Let's go to page 99 and page 125 to talk about that happening. And then maybe we won't have to talk about it again. So on page 99, I wrote up here, obnoxious. Oh, good. All right, what was it? We have, okay, so Rachel is our main character and we're in her point of view. So all of the I statements are from Rachel. I said, probably not, he said. Okay, probably not, he said. He quickly joined me at the window, but I did not look at him. Had he imagined I was making some stealthy sexual advance? Trust me, I thought, if I do, you'll know. And that just felt obnoxious. I'm like, what? Why is that? Why would we think that Liam thinks we're making a stealthy sexual advance? I didn't get that feeling. That felt kind of like shoehorned in. I didn't. Okay, then page 125. I wrote in the margin, boring introspection that I don't care about, which is kind of a negative thing to say, but that was my experience in here. Okay, so this is an I statement. Rachel is saying, I opened my eyes to the faint light of dawn and the sound of rain. I had left my window open, letting in cold air and the smell of coal smoke, the sounds of London waking up. My dream, Henry Austen, a carriage, a waterfall, was slipping away, and with relief I let it go. It's true, though, I thought, still half asleep, as if answering a question or justifying myself to some imaginary listener. Jane herself, perhaps. I've never been in love. I don't want to settle or lie to myself, to dwindle into the compromises of coupledom, chasing an illusion of happily ever after. My parents' marriage was a happy one until my father's untimely death, so I can't be said to lack role models. I've been intrigued in lust, craved unsuitable men, been bored by the attentions of differently unsuitable men, had sex as often as I could. Silly crushes, torrid affairs, tedious boyfriends, and close male friends, with and without benefits, elements that never coalesced. Maybe I've never met the right person. Maybe I never will. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me. That, I don't care. I don't care. That felt like a plot I didn't need in this novel, this time travel novel about Jane Austen. It was an extra plot I didn't want, didn't need, didn't care. And in hearing Rachel speak frequently about the fact that she was really sexually active made me dislike her. I didn't care. And I didn't like the fact that Rachel was a promiscuous chick. That made me dislike her. Here we go. Okay, next. What else I want to go over? There was something very cool happening, though. with Rachel and with the way she was written. Pages 90 to 91. Let me get there for you guys. She is losing her sense of reality. Yeah. And I think that is because reality was changing in her future, right? In the synopsis we just discussed, I told you guys, when they get back to the future, it's different. It's changed. Things are not the same, right? Liam is not the same. I think Rachel is not the same. The places that she goes after she gets back are not the same. Things have changed. And I think that this slipping away of reality, this changing of reality, I think that's because like her subconscious or something knows that the future is changing. I think so. And I think the foreshadowing of that is nicely done. And like kudos to the author for that. So on pages 90 and 91, we have, he stretched his arms, cracked his knuckles, and rubbed his eyes as if releasing all the accumulated tensions of the evening. Do you ever have the feeling? I stopped. What? It sounds crazy, I know. Sometimes I feel like I am forgetting my own life entirely, as if it was something that happened to someone else and that we really were in the Caribbean and came here on a ship. And I paused. And our brother and sister, I had been about to say, but realized I did not believe that part. I am an only child, but I felt certain that I had had a brother, I would understand him better than I understood Liam, who remained a closed book to me. It happens all the time to actors, even in a normal situation, when you get to take off your makeup and put on your usual clothes and go home between performances. Liam pulled his wig off, dropped it on the mantel, and ran his hands through his short, dark hair. This thing always makes me feel like I have lice and about 20 years out of style. I was in Mongolia for 9 months, volunteering after the earthquake. That was the longest. And at the end of it, my own life had come to seem unreal, but not like this. You were still allowed to be yourself. Maybe that's the difference. After a pause, he said, when the ladies withdrew, Henry Austen began trying to interest me in an investment scheme, yada, yada, yada. But anyway, what we're seeing here, Liam is telling her, you know, it's like being an actor. You get to like take off the mask and come back to your reality. You know, you can shift between real and unreal. I've done it before. So he's feeling that, but he's feeling it because he's an actor and he knows the feeling. But she's feeling it. I think this is great foreshadowing. Right. Okay, so some moments where I wasn't feeling the tension. We've got pages 43, 45, and 47. 43. Okay, yep, I wrote it here in the margin. I think I was supposed to feel something, and I just don't. All right. A reply came 2 days later. He was propped against the coffee pot and waiting for us when we sat down to breakfast. A solid, fern-folded piece of rag paper that we just stared at. More than any moment so far, more than when I had opened my eyes in Leatherhead, I felt the strangeness of what I was doing. We had interfered in history. We had sent Henry Austen a letter that had never previously existed. He had read it and sat down to reply. Time he would have spent doing something else, looking out the window on a sunny afternoon, humming a little song as he studied himself in the mirror. I suspected he would prove vain about his looks. It went with what we knew about his charm, inability to keep secrets, unwillingness to choose and stick to one profession. I picked up the letter, snapped the wax, and unfolded its crisp, perfect thirds. The handwriting was faultless, no blots, lines arrow straight, words of unvarying size, etc., etc. Okay. Again, I think throughout there that we're supposed to feel tension about this letter from Henry. But I didn't. Page 45, I wrote, this feels insipid and forced. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I should cut that out. Let's see. Well, Liam pirouetted. There was no other word for it in front of me. After all that drama, his outfit was perfect, flattering his rangy but broad-shouldered frame. He had a presence I had not acknowledged until that moment, as my gaze lingered on him absent-mindedly. He wasn't my type, but I knew how it was when people were thrown together in extreme situations. It had happened in the ER. and on my humanitarian missions especially. Before I went to Peru, there had actually been an informational session on the topic, which we joked seemed devised to absolve the married people from guilt about cheating on their spouses. It's not real, what you're feeling. That was in her brain. It's not real, what you're feeling. Liam was a cold fish, with the formality typical of old Britons, far away from his own emotions. I suspected he looked down on me as an American, and he seldom got my jokes. He'd be terrible in bed. I put my odds of sleeping with him before the mission had ended at 70%. That felt unnecessary and forced. Okay, I didn't care. All right, then is that the end of that? Oh, page 47. Was there another one? Yeah, okay. I know this is supposed to be building tension, but it didn't for me. All right, she sighs. I stood up, and walked to the window. The darkness of the room made me invisible, and I could stare as boldly as I wanted. An oyster cellar, a lamplighter, a coach rattling past, a blind man with a harp being led by a little boy. First meetings were brief and ceremonial. I could expect Liam back at any moment, yet the clock struck 8 and he had not appeared. In one way, I was not eager for his return. I felt increasingly afraid the meeting would be a failure. As long as he had not come back, he had not failed, but existed in an indeterminate state, like Schrodinger's cat. The clock struck 9. Perhaps it had been a disaster, and Liam was wandering around London, reluctant to return with bad news. Or something had happened after he had left the club. He'd been hit with a falling object, dropped chamber pot, loose roof tile, and was unconscious in a dirty street, ganged near the docks, his protests of being a gentleman dismissed with rude laughter, knifed, kicked, robbed, left to die. No, I was being ridiculous. Henry Austen had been late. He seemed like someone who would be. Or Liam had won him over and they were still talking. It wasn't impossible. He was good with the servants, never betraying that there was anything odd about living with people who cooked his meals, made his bed, or carried hot water up 3 flights of stairs so he could wash himself. These were things I was struggling to find natural. See, I think we're supposed to be feeling suspense at Liam taking so long to come back from meeting with Henry. I think we're supposed to be getting some tension here, but I'm not feeling suspense. I'm feeling bored. I'm feeling irritated with the excuses, the extra that's in here. I don't need to sit here and listen to Rachel give me excuses for why Liam could be late. You guys, I'm so sorry. Okay, so let's go to okay, so I gave you the Sandy synopsis and told you that they do return to the future. Let's go to the bottom of page 346. Are we going to 346? Oh, okay. So 346, the bottom of 346 is when Rachel wakes up back in the future. She and Liam wake up in different, she wakes up in a different place than he wakes up. That makes sense? Okay. But this whole thing wraps up very quickly after she wakes up. Okay? We wrap up this story from pages 348 to 373. Okay, I wrote it down here. Time travel and love story wraps the whole book in 25 pages. So we go from pages 348 to 373. We wrap everything in 25 pages. So we go from page 1 to 346 when she wakes up in that hospital bed. 1 to 346 is all of this, and all of this, introducing time travel, introducing 1815, introducing Henry, introducing all these servants, and Tom that we save, and typhus, and pneumonia, and the spectrometer that you wear around your neck so that you can open the portal again and you can take pictures of Jane's letters, and all of It happens, and then we wrap it all up in 25 pages. We wrap up the theory of changing timelines and these two deciding they're going to be together in the future, despite the fact that this guy is already married, in 25 pages. Let's go to page 354. And I'm just going to read for you. Guys, I am totally fully spoiling this. Get ready. But we have an example of the author's writing style. We have the wrap up pretty much of the time travel situation, the paradox of changing the future. Ava Farmer is the one who runs the Jane Austen Project. And she's the one speaking. I owe you much more than that. Ava Farmer smiled slightly and looked out at the garden, then back to me expectantly. So? Something about this I don't understand. She waited, her dark eyes inscrutable. Do people actually remember the different versions? Why would they, when they have always lived one version? But when history changes behind you, they adapt to it. But how? She went on looking at me with the same half smile. A little sad, I thought, but maybe that was just me. Let's say you're a Jane Austen scholar. Your entire body of work has focused on the 6. Suddenly one day, there are 17 additional books by the person you're supposedly a specialist in, and you haven't even read them. She made no reply. Or are you telling me that everyone's past also changes? So, in fact, our imaginary scholar has read them in a past that's now different? I stopped. My head hurt. You're thinking about this the wrong way, Ava Farmer said. The past is a collective fiction like anything else. Like fiat money, for example. It exists because we agree it does. It has no objective reality. So you never wanted the Cassandra letters? You never wanted the Watsons? Of course I did. Her gaze was cool and level. But perhaps they were just a means to an end. As you were too, I suppose. I'm sorry it turned out this way for you. This made tears well up in my eyes, which I blinked back. In my version, we had a conversation before I left, I began. We were in the sandroom. I'd been on horseback. You mentioned a thing I had said in my application essay about repairing the world. I stopped. Even in that version, you wanted me to save her, didn't you? You secretly wanted that all along. Yes, of course. Even though it was strictly forbidden to change history. She nodded, and I went on, feeling I'd caught her in a lie. But why am I even asking you this? In the version you live in, you've always wanted to. It was never forbidden. So my question should make no sense to you. I paused. She looked amused. It was a look Jane had sometimes turned on me. There's something you're not telling me. Seldom, very seldom, does complete truth belong to any human disclosure, she quoted, increasing my sense of Jane Austen déjà vu. People in general do not remember what's changed. They know, yet they don't. It's hard and it's confusing. They don't like it. But I am not people in general. As should be obvious, I invented the Prometheus server. For all practical purposes, I invented time travel. I don't have any trouble keeping the various versions in my head. So you understand it all? That depends on what you mean by it all. You wanted to extend Jane Austen's life. Hang on, guys. Sorry. You thought I would be the person crazy enough to disregard the mission directives and do it. You knew this would result in things being different. 3 days back, I was still unraveling all the ways things were different, aside from my mother being dead and Liam married. They were numerous. Crazy is a harsh term, Dr. Pratzman. You did what needed to be done, for which I am most grateful. So in that 2 pages there, we get the time travel paradox theory all summed up. And I didn't like that. I think more should have been done. More could have been done with that. This is a time travel novel. So much more could have been done. So much more depth could have been plumbed with the time travel element, with the time travel like theories and concepts and what's being raised there. There are moral questions being raised there. There are ethics to be explored that we did not explore. We did not explore. And that's kind of a shame. That is a shame that we didn't get to explore those moral questions in this book that was dripping with moral questions. Okay. Now, one of the things that I found intriguing about this book and something I liked, I liked plenty of things in the book. I know that some of the things I've been saying are a little bit negative, just some of the things that I found as, like the cons in the book. But some of the things I found really interesting were the Jane Austen research and obvious admiration and love that's in this book. If you're a Jane Austen fan, you are probably going to find plenty of clever and cool Jane Austen things in here to enjoy. Some things that will make you go, oh, how dare you? But some things that are very clever and nice. One of the things that I thought was interesting was this sort of parallel between Liam and Edward Ferrars of Sense and Sensibility. I am not saying they are a direct comparison. No. But there were moments when Liam's character was just waffling enough that he reminded me of Edward and some of his waffling. Now, of course, Edward was waffling because he wanted to do the right thing. And there are moments when I saw Liam wanting to do the right thing. We learn as we get through the book, like when we're maybe halfway through the book, I started to appreciate Liam a little bit more. He said some things and admitted to some things that made us understand his character more. Okay. He admitted some things to Rachel that made me go, that's why you're kind of a standoffish, aloof prick. He got engaged to Sabina before they left for this, time travel experience because he had proposed to her in the past, in like a year before this project began. He had proposed to her before he ever met Rachel. Okay. Kind of Edward and Lucy like, right? So he had proposed to her and she had kind of put it off and not answered him, not given him a clear answer. And they just sort of continued dating. She finally responded. She finally said, yes, I'm going to marry you. Let's get married. I will marry you when you get back from this. She finally made their engagement real after seeing the way he connected with Rachel. Okay. There was that Lucy Steele jealousy moment happening there. Right. And so they're engaged and he wants to be true to Sabina. He wants to be true to that engagement. So he's trying not to have feelings for Rachel here in the past, in 1815. He's trying not to be attracted to her. Plus, they're pretending to be brother and sister. Plus, they're pretending to, get in with the Austen family. Okay. So he doesn't want to be attracted to her. He has a fiance back home. And there does come a point where he can no longer hide his feelings for Rachel. He can no longer pretend that he doesn't love her, esteem her greatly. He can no longer pretend. And they fear they might get stuck in 1815. And they decide, you know what? We might just go ahead and stay here. If we decide to stay here, then the connections we had in the future are null and void. It's all moot anyway. So let's go ahead and have sex. So they decide they're going to go ahead and have a relationship together here in 1815. They decide to throw caution to the wind and they hide, of course, because everyone around them thinks they're brother and sister. So ew. So they have to hide the fact that they are in love with one another, and they have to hide the fact that they're starting to get it on in the sheets, right? They have to hide this. But Liam does have, in moments, he does have that parallel to Edward Ferrars because he wants to remain true to that original engagement. Yeah. And so I saw that and I was like, oh, interesting. You guys, I don't know that I enjoyed the Jane Austen Project, but I saw its merits. How's that? Yeah. If you are interested in time travel and time travel stories, this one might drive you nuts. There are really good conversations about like time and ripple effects and how like different things are going to affect the immediate future and the far future. There are good conversations about that. The moral implications of it don't really get too much discussion. I don't think. Your results may vary. I mean, if you have read this, share with me in the comments below if you saw these characters struggling with the morality of the changes they were making. Because I don't know. You guys, thumbs up for an interesting Jane Austen Project story. Thumbs up for Jane Austen July, encouraging us to expand our horizons and read things we otherwise might not have read. I want to thank you guys for sitting through this review. Thank you for sharing Jane Austen July with me. I'll see you in the next one.